So all of the exercises so far have been more about resisting rotation, or sometimes referred to as an anti-rotation exercise. This one we're going to talk about how to actually rotate during the exercise. So I find it's usually easier for people to learn how to resist rotation prior to actually learning how to rotate. If you jump into doing this stuff, you don't have a good sense of how to stabilize in the first place, you can get through these, but oftentimes the learning curve and sort of what you're going to get out of it is much more when you start with stabilizing and learning how to resist rotation before jumping into an actual rotation exercise. So one of the keys, probably the most important thing with any rotation, whether it's exercise or daily activities, is that the hip and the shoulder must go together. Now, what this should start you thinking, get you thinking about, if you exercise and you're doing an ab exercise that doesn't have that component, right? If you're twisting and turning and your hips and your shoulders are going in opposite directions, that's not a good thing. So a common exercise is the Russian twist, where people sit down with their legs out in front and they'll sometimes move a medicine ball or a dumbbell and you'll go kind of side to side that way. There's a few problems with that exercise, but part of it is when you're sitting in that position and you rotate one way, to balance your body, your hips tend to rotate a little bit in the opposite direction. So you're creating a little bit of twisting and torquing through your spine. So it's not the best option, but it's a common sort of ab exercise a lot of people will do at gyms and even at home, because again, it's an easy thing to set up. It requires minimal equipment, but I think there are better options. So when you go to do any rotation exercise, make sure hip and shoulder are going to go together. Very, very important. It also starts to resemble a baseball swing, a golf swing, right? If you're throwing something, it all kind of turns through and works together. So for the standing chop, again, you need to anchor your band to something. This time, I'm going to grab with my inside hand first, okay? I'm going to grab here. My other hand comes over the top to secure this way. So the trick with this one is to actually relax your arms. So my arms are not doing the pulling, which I know seems crazy because they're the thing holding onto the band, but I want my arms relaxed. And I want to focus on turning and pivoting through my hip, through my abs, and my arms move this way because of what I'm doing through my hip and through my torso. And that's the thing people mess up the most. So what it should look like is from here, I'm going to turn this way. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to come back. Turn. Now you can kind of see at the bottom of the video here, I'm pivoting up onto my toe. That lets my hip rotate. Very, very important. Don't anchor your heels in for this exercise and don't just do this. Okay? That's going to start to jam up your hip, and you'll feel a lot of it in like almost the groin area when you do stuff like that. It's a problem for the hip, it's a problem for the back, it's a problem for your knee, because you're asking joints to do things they're really not meant to do, and you're putting a lot of stress on them that is completely unnecessary. So again, here, my elbows are slightly bent. I'm not pulling across my body this way. I'm not doing this and then turning my hip. Don't lead with the arms. The arms turn because of what I'm doing down and through here. So make that the focus with all of your rotation type movements, just generally speaking, okay? Focus on even doing this without the band and just get a sense of that motion. And can you get everything to work together? Here, and then the arms move because of that. The last exercise we're going to talk about for day 4 is what I call rotational punch. So again, this one also has you turning and rotating through using similar principles that we talked about with the standing chop. You want to make sure that the hip and shoulder do go together, and that the hip and the abs are doing the work, and the arm motion is going and moving as a result of what's happening down and through here. This one, a lot of people want to punch first and then turn the body after that. So you want to really make sure, and I'll give you kind of a cue you can follow that you can actually repeat to yourself to help get the movement sequence properly. So this one, you're going to grab your band. Again, you're going to grab with your inside hand. Again, what you should do this time though is you're going to hold it against your chest with both hands. As you turn through, the other hand that's not on the band is going to move away, and it's going to be just kind of a one-arm exercise. But when you come back to this point, I encourage people to help stabilize and hold here, because you don't want this drifting back each time, and you don't want to have to pull back to this position each time. So with the rotation punch, what you want to sequence and what you want to think about is a step, turn, punch. And I'll explain why this is all so important. But the first part is you want to step out. And you really want to exaggerate that step out. Because when I go into the next part, I step, I turn, and then I'm going to punch. But that turn, if I don't open up this front hip, then when I spin this way, all I do is jam up. I take the ball and jam it into the socket, and I can't rotate through nearly as well, and it can actually cause discomfort on that front hip. So you want to make sure you step out, turn, and then you punch. Now in this position, I'm nice and balanced. My feet are apart. I can hold here. I'm not losing my balance, and then I come back to this position here. This is where the other hand comes back in again. So I step, turn, punch. And you should turn completely to that side. So if I'm facing this way, I should turn 90 degrees that way and face in that direction. I want to step out. Now here, I don't punch across my body, which will cause me to tip over. The punch from where this is here goes straight out. And then back here, step, turn, punch, here. And don't over punch. So what a lot of people want to do is they want to get here and they want to really reach out. Think about your posture. So when you come around, I'm still in a good posture. Slight bend in my elbow, my abs are tight, my neck is back, I'm not lurching forward. So make sure that just because you can reach that extra distance, you don't want to, okay? And like most of these things we talked about, don't forget the other side. Switch hands, step, turn, punch. And make sure you spin up on the toes on that back hip. That's going to allow the hip to rotate, which allows your spine to stay neutral, so that way when I come around this way, I'm not twisting my spine at all. It's very, very important with any rotation movement, whether it's an exercise or just part of your daily activities. Well, there you have it. Day 4 in the books. Ab week is rolling on here. Today we talked a lot about how not to rotate if you don't want to, and actually how to rotate properly with both exercise and then how you can apply that to your daily activities. Something else to keep in mind when you're doing ab exercises, when you get back to a gym and you're using other equipment, if you're doing things that don't allow your hip and shoulder to move together, you may not want to do a lot of those things. You could maybe do some here or there, but the bulk of your rotation type movements should have that idea in mind, especially if you're dealing with back pain, knee pain, hip pain, anything like that. You want to clean up that rotation motion and take stress away from those parts of the body. So day 4 is done. The next 3 days are going to be all dedicated towards very specific workouts you can follow along to, with specific sets and reps and time and all kinds of those variables and those parameters. For the next 3 days, I'm going to be sharing a bunch of different ab workouts using all these different exercises, things that you can work on to keep you busy while you're stuck at home.